Hello, and thank you for joining us. The House has failed to pass a measure to fund the government and avert a shutdown. The resolution was backed by President-elect Trump after he derailed a previous version that had been negotiated between Republicans and Democrats.
The nays are 235, one voting present, two-thirds not being in the affirmative. The rules are not suspended and the bill is not passed.
Congress still faces a deadline of Friday at midnight to pass a measure known as a continuing resolution or face a government shutdown. If no bill is passed, it would mean potentially millions of federal employees could be furloughed, federal contractors won't get paid, and certain agencies like the TSA would have to have their employees work without a paycheck, all during the holiday season. The new bill included some of the same provisions from the previous one, including extending the Farm Bill and providing disaster relief aid. It also included Trump's biggest demand, action on the debt ceiling, which was a non-starter for many lawmakers. CBS News political reporter Taurean Small joins us now. So, Taurean, break down why this vote failed.
Lindsay, undoubtedly for the next couple of days, the postmortem of this bill would be whether or not Elon Musk was the deciding factor in why the original deal that both Democrats and Republicans struck just ultimately didn't make its way to the floor. I think, though, what you'll see, especially tonight, is bipartisan blame pointed at House Speaker Mike Johnson. It's really striking to see him come before the cameras as the vote was happening. And there's this interesting juxtaposition for him to telegraph this optimism that this vote or this bill would receive enough votes to pass. It required a two-thirds majority. And at the time that he said that, 30 Republicans voted against it. He just didn't have the votes there. What's also interesting is that our eagle-eyed Hill team spotted him on the chamber floor after the vote, talking to members of the House Rules Committee, seemingly looking to garner support to pass the CR through the normal rules process. Again, a two-thirds majority was required because of suspension of the rules. He could potentially pursue it during the normal avenues, but again, it doesn't look like he has even enough votes for a simple majority to pass it.
And so what happens, next? There could be probably multiple avenues. We could probably be here until tomorrow talking about the possibilities. But at this point, we have a Friday midnight deadline. Whatever new bill comes up, won't lawmakers want time to read it?
I mean, we should probably brace ourselves for a government shutdown. I mean, within a matter of 3 days, we've gone from having a deal that satisfied both parties to the president being emboldened by the owner of Twitter, now known as X, to then dissuade Republicans and ultimately the House Speaker to change his mind, to this CR that absolutely had no support from Democrats, Democrats saying they will no longer play ball with House Speaker Johnson, to where we are today. So a lot of Republicans have been telling our reporters that they're interested in a clean CR. It's unclear if Democrats, again, are willing to participate and help them out. They'll need to do another bill suspension or rule suspension, or they'll have to wait 72 hours for a new bill to be reviewed before it can be considered on the House floor. At this point, it's unlikely, so it's more likely that we'll see a government shutdown in the immediate future, Lindsay.
So you had mentioned in an earlier answer that in the postmortem, it will likely be discussed whether Elon Musk tanked the first CR vote. Can you break down what was in that package and how it differed from the one that lawmakers just voted down on?
Well, House Speaker Johnson said this was a much slimmed down version. These were the essentials, and also included emergency disaster relief for Hurricane Helene and Milton, recovery efforts. This was what Johnson said more Republicans were interested in, as the relief was also a bipartisan issue there. But ultimately, what would have placated Donald Trump is this inclusion that pushed off debt ceiling or the debt limit to 2027, so seemingly after the midterms. This is something that Donald Trump did not want to have to deal with when he came back in office. He wanted to use his political capital elsewhere, according to sources close to him. So this is, in his mind, a play to do that. That ultimately didn't happen. I think a lot of Democrats now, like we saw Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries say, this is Musk doing, and he believes that the party is no longer a serious party, the Republican Party, this bill that they put forth without their support, without their cooperation, is laughable in his words.
So right now we have a lot of polarization on Capitol Hill. We have Republicans who are saying that Dems shouldn't get any pet projects into this. We have Democrats that are saying that more needs to be included, and also they're against all of this debt ceiling, raising it and pushing it off to 2027. But he needs a 2/3 majority. So if he has to work with all the Republicans in his party, with some Democrats, how is he going to get everyone on board when they have such opposing priorities?
That's the million-dollar question. I think no speaker in my history of covering the Hill, I've been there since 2018, has been able to delicately navigate that. You're going to upset no matter what you do, both sides there. And what we've seen last time, because this is the second time they had to do a stopgap. Just to remind you, they passed one in September, much to the chagrin of Donald Trump back then, too. He called on Republicans to not pass that continuing resolution unless they included the SAVE Act. It's a provision that will require voters to show proof of U.S. citizenship, but that ultimately wasn't attached. Then when Johnson did it, he upset members of the Freedom Caucus. They said they lost confidence in him, and they were talking about January, whether or not they would be voting for him again. This time around, they're looking at that same situation. Thomas Massie, one of the members of the caucus, said that there's no way in his mind he'll be supporting Johnson for speakership in January. We could be looking at, Lindsay, another Kevin McCarthy situation where there's rounds and rounds of voting until we finally found out another speaker. It might not take as long or be as dramatic as that time, but still, this is another long slog on the Hill as usual.
All right, let's go ahead and listen to Representative Jamie Raskin, ranking member on the Oversight Committee, who spoke moments ago.
This, which is to go back to the original agreement that was hammered out over many weeks of painstaking bipartisan negotiation. And then everybody can support it, the Democrats in the House and the Senate, the Republicans in the House and the Senate, and Elon Musk will not be our presumptive new president.
What do you make of the fact that Republicans kind of had their hands tied because of Musk and Trump, who perhaps Trump should have been maybe in the negotiations earlier, do you think?
Well, I think that Mike Johnson should model strong legislative civic self-confidence for the members on the Republican side and vote for what they agreed to. And all they have to do is keep to their word, vote for what they agreed to, and we keep the government open, and we are able to meet all of these needs and to prevent a shutdown of the U.S. government. It's just shameful that they allowed Elon Musk, who now everybody's calling President Musk, to blow this deal up. I heard one Republican colleague say now it's President Musk and J.D. Vance as vice president. Well, where does that leave Donald Trump, the president-elect? Is he the former campaign manager or something? So we don't know who the negotiating partner is at this point.
Why did the RFK Stadium measure get stripped out of the new spending bill?
Great question. We have no idea because the Democrats were not involved in it. It was done completely on the Republican side. But they didn't even get all the Republican votes. Last I left, I think there were 36 or 37 Republicans who voted against the measure. So there's obviously chaos again over on the GOP side of the aisle, and it's a very poor omen for what's to come.
The debt ceiling seems to be a non-starter for President-elect Trump. Is there anything Republicans could offer Democrats to get them on board with extending that?
President-elect Trump wants to increase the debt ceiling in order to pass another massive tax break for the very wealthiest citizens. Last time, 83% of his tax cut went to the wealthiest people in the country. So we know that's why he wants to increase the tax ceiling. That's fiscally irresponsible. It's regressive public policy, and it also is not part of the original agreement that we entered into. We are an independent branch of government, and the U.S. Congress had an agreement that Democrats on both sides, Republicans on both sides agreed to, and it was blown up by a tweet by Elon Musk. And so there's no way we can reward that behavior, and it's not going to work for us moving into this new period. I'm afraid I'm going to have to go. So.
What's the chance of a government shutdown, though, at this point? What is
So, Taurean, this is something that we've been hearing all day from Democrats on the Hill. It's sort of a multi-pronged argument here, essentially saying that Musk is usurping Trump and that the government is now run by billionaires. We know that President-elect Trump does not like to be upstaged by anyone, so perhaps they are sort of playing to that aspect of his personality. And then this idea of the separation of powers, where we had one member of Congress today who said Congress does not work under the president, it works with the president. What were you hearing from lawmakers on the Hill today, and do you know when that sort of messaging started having cohesion, at least among Democrats?
It's exactly that, and especially to the point about Musk, Democrats almost in unison have been echoing the idea that it's Elon Musk who's pulling the strings here. In fact, Hakeem Jeffries, right after Republicans wrote out this bill, said that this Musk-Johnson proposal is not serious. Other Democrats have called this an issue of President Musk taking the reins on Capitol Hill. Jim McGovern, Democrat from Massachusetts, said that Johnson needs to grow a spine and not allow a billionaire and Musk to control what he does and ultimately his conference here on Capitol Hill. I think it's instructive, though, to see that, especially when it comes to the debt limit, Democrats are unmoving. Jeffrey said that it's premature to even talk about that, and there's no scenario in their minds that they would include that as part of this continuing resolution. Again, we're ticking down to a government shutdown here deadline, which is midnight tomorrow. So not a lot of time for lawmakers to come together for a new proposal. Democrats are saying the original still stands for them. If Republicans are willing to come back to the table, they can work across the aisle to get this and suspend the rules and get a 2/3 majority for that.